The views expressed, opinions given, and any communication made between the hosts and guests of What Are You Afraid of Horror and Paranormal Show do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Para X Radio, EMC Network, or all services that play this show. The hosts and services are not responsible for the actions of their guests, and the original rights of all intellectual property is retained by the creator, and all work is used with either permission or Creative Commons license. The show is for entertainment purposes only. This is T. Fox Dunham, producer and one of the hosts of What Are You Afraid of Horror and Paranormal Show. We want to thank all of our fans for staying with us during 2017, and we wish you a Happy New Year. This evening's show is a retrospective of some of our scariest ghost stories, told to us by our guests and read to us by our various voice actors. Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2018 with some amazing new content on What Are You Afraid of Horror and Paranormal Show. We're back with Galen Chauncey, paranormal spiritual warrior and counselor, and it doesn't sound like she takes no sass from no ghost.
No, not at all.
She is, if you're a ghost, you do not want to encounter her, because she's not going to be all that sympathetic.
She's very steadfast, against the...
She's going to say, get out of your self-pity, ghost, and move on.
That's right.
So let me ask you real quick, are there any ghosts around you right now?
Oh yes, they stay outside. Let me give you a perfect example. New neighbors moved in a couple of weeks ago with kids, and we're like, all right. And the little 7-year-old came over while they were unpacking and saw me planting flowers, and she was helping me. And I waved to the mom and said, don't worry, she's fine. She's out of the way. Okay. Well, I noticed the old man watching us that was standing underneath the tree, and he was a ghost. And I looked up at him, and I could see him watching the house, and I couldn't tell if he was watching the little girl. So when it comes to children, I'm very protective. I wanted to make sure he wasn't attracted to her. Well, I must have looked at him a couple times, and she looked at me, and she goes, who is that old man? I keep seeing him watching your house. He just stands there and watches your house. And the first words out of my mouth was, you can see ghosts? And I was so shocked. She was 7 years old. They don't know me. They are moving in. And she asked me, she goes, is that a ghost? She didn't know what a ghost was. I mean, that actually what she was seeing was a ghost. Mm. So, yes, they surround my house all the time.
Because they know that you can see them, or is that just a typical thing?
I think that they're attracted to my energy, because they were always around me. As growing up, they were always around me. I think that everybody produces energy that the ghosts need. And apparently I must have extra, because they were always around me, which is why I'm very good at getting pictures and very good at getting electronic voice phenomena. These ghosts will talk to me. More power to them. I don't know why this happens, because I didn't use a lot of tape recorders in the 80s. Made too much white noise. And you hardly hear the EVPs. So when digital came out, I thought, what the hey? And there were so many. I went to Waverly Hills Haunted Sanatorium in Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
And I was there for 4 hours and recorded 35 EVPs. Class A. I don't count the Class B or C's. They have to be clear. And so Ghost Hunters, the show, couldn't believe I got so many, so they sent somebody with me with recorder, and the same thing happened.
Wow.
Ghost Hunters from Sci-Fi.
Yeah, so they were, just going, how are you getting this many EVPs? So they were trying to prove me wrong, yet, and they worked with the Ghost Hunters on Sci-Fi, I guess looking for haunted places, trying to get evidence.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't believe how many people were used just for their evidence. And I didn't care. Yeah, it's out there. I share it with everybody because I believe that's how you learn about the paranormal, is sharing your stories and experiences and whatever evidence that you may have. And they were actually kind of shocked. And were so shocked, in fact, that on one of the recordings, I noticed that while I was listening to it, there were several voices that were saying, come on. Okay. Mm-mm. And I didn't count them. There were so many I actually was complaining if I hear one more ghost say, come on, I'm going to beat it. Because it's all through the tape in 4 hours. And so Adam contacts me and says, we have a voice analyzer that can tell us different voice patterns. So I was like, hey, way to go. Mm. And there was just the two of us, and they recorded 6 come-ons, and the computer said that each one was a different voice pattern. And he said that meant that there were 6 ghosts right there surrounding you. And I said, well, yeah, so what? And he goes, but you weren't afraid. And I said, for what? Yeah, I know what to be afraid of, and a ghost isn't it.
Right.
So they were actually really, and I could tell that he was scared for me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, aren't you guys the experts here and been doing this? And, you're experiencing this all the time yourselves. Why is this one experience freaking you out? And it's because of the evidence that was recorded. He never saw a thing or heard a thing.
Wow.
You have a paranormal group that you founded in 2011. That's Afterlife Goes On Investigations. Tell us about your group.
Well, technology is the reason why I ended up getting a group. When I went around the first time, it was just my 35 millimeter camera. Okay, very rarely did I take the tape recorder. Digital came out and I kissed the ground because it saved so much money on exposures you wouldn't believe. But the voice recorders started coming out digital. Video cameras were bigger back then. Okay, and I realized I didn't have enough hands. So I said, if anything, I need people to help me carry equipment and track the paranormal evidence. That's what happened. And this group of people, they're just so taken aback by, not by what they've seen, but just like Adam, nothing they see, there's nothing there. Yet the voice recorder is picking up somebody talking, standing next to us. And so they are wowed by that fact, and they learned that it only happens when you're around. Why is that? And I said, well, that's something you're going to learn. So it's a test. Go by yourself, see what you get. We can go to the same house. They get nothing, but they take me and they get something. So it's really easy to get them hooked because they're so fascinated by that and realizing the ghosts are around. With the group, some get scared. A lot get scared. When something actually does happen, it actually scares them and I never see them again. And some are drawn in just going, wow, I can't believe this. But they like the idea of helping ghosts move on.
I heard that everyone attends their own funeral. Is that true or is that just something I heard? Okay. It's false.
Yeah, because let me tell you the same thing about cemeteries. I say, well, I hate to tell you all, but most ghosts in the cemetery are visiting the people in the cemetery. They don't.
Right, they're not there.
Okay,
yeah. They don't hang out there. Because there's no energy to pull off of there.
Yeah, so there might be one or two ghosts that live in a cemetery, but I said most of these people get pictures or anything or video. What are they doing? They're in front of a grave.
Right.
They're crying or whatever. And I said most ghosts visit. That's why you don't get much in cemeteries because there aren't that many that, and the funeral homes are the same way. I mean, come on, who hang out in a funeral home when you're dead?
But I heard that ghosts will attend their own funeral. And if there's ever a stray ghost, an earthbound ghost that hasn't found the light, to direct them towards a funeral home because usually there's a light there. I don't know if how true that is, but
the light appears as soon as really or not. The reason why that could be true partly is because the light appears once, you realize that something's wrong. Okay? Right. That's when finally you're looking at yourself or something that it's clicking that something's wrong. And as soon as it clicks that something's wrong, the light opens up and you're like, oh crap, this life's over with. And gone. Okay. Right. And so sometimes if they don't get it, but most people know when they died.
Right.
Everybody looks down at the body for a second. Everybody floats out of it. They know that they died. So they're small percentage may be that, but very small.
Right.
Could you tell us about some of your more potent cases with your paranormal group?
The ghosts are one thing I've encountered. Shadow people, the little 3-year-olds we call the bad guy. Encountered a lot of those. But really what I do is boogeyman. To me, a boogeyman is, I know it sounds weird, but it's an unidentified paranormal creature. I can't identify it. It's not a ghost. Okay? So there are things out there that defy explanation because you're sitting here going, okay, well, this is paranormal, but this is not the ghost that you were thinking of. My expertise is really the boogeyman or the monster underneath the bed or in the closet, but I research missing children under paranormal circumstances. Okay, when the child's being terrified, weird stuff like that happens. My job is to go in there and see what's going on. And one time I was doing an investigation and something was just terrifying this little boy, and I was in his room that night and doing my thing. And this is before, my voice recorder and before digital cameras and all this. And I'm sitting there waiting for something to happen because it said it always came out of closet door. So closet was half open and the room was dark and the door cast a shadow behind it. So it was even darker in the corner. And when I looked there were 2 white eyes staring at me. Okay, and they were round. They were round, almond shaped, but standing up almond shaped almost. And they were about a foot off the ground. Okay, and it was just staring at me from the darkness. And I couldn't see its body at all in the dark. It just melded with the dark. Okay, so I'm staring at it, and my reaction is stay calm. Be calm, be calm. What are you reading here? What is it that you're seeing? Because, and then it blinked. And I went, okay. Ooh. All right. Only something alive blinks. Okay. So, and that's exactly what went through my mind. And I'm thinking to myself, am I dealing with how did an animal maybe get into the room? They didn't have a cat or dog. And I thought maybe, it was some kind of animal. And I'm sitting there trying to figure this out. And it's looking at me. And then all of a sudden, a second pair of eyes right behind the ones, like over its shoulder, appeared. Okay. And let me tell you, to get yourself to sit down and not move an inch, because I'm already sitting down, and my instinct is to get up and run as fast as I can out of the room, because now there are 2 of them. Right. So they were looking at me for a minute, and finally it occurred to me that they were looking at me like I was looking at them. It was curiosity.
Right.
Okay. And so when I went to stand up, I was standing up so I can back up a few more feet because I didn't know if it was a wild animal. Well, they must have thought I was getting up to walk toward them because all of a sudden I heard their feet sliding so fast like my dog would on the wood floor, slide so fast, and I could hear them scooting away from me. Number 1, their back was already up against the wall. There was nothing to scoot back to. Okay. Number 2, turned on the light, nothing. Nothing. No hole, no, nothing. I didn't know how they were getting in and out of the room. So it was a situation of basically live with it because something like that, I said, I call it like slip of dimensions maybe, that somehow that house is sitting on there. And it happens with these houses that there are creatures out there that are either harmless or not so nice and are harmless to a child. So I go in there and I say, well, you got to live with it because there's nothing I can do about that. There's not spirit to pass on through the light. Right. It's a boogeyman. I can't identify what it is, just a general term I've used for years. I hunt more of the mean type of boogeyman. That's the case right there. Shocked me. And I think I thought I was stepping toward it.
Right.
I was stepping back, but I couldn't understand where the scooting noise came from because their backs were already against the wall. So
That's
Yeah.
pretty frightening.
Yeah,
that's what I thought too. Because I can have fear. It's just controlling that fear.
We're going to take a break there, and we are going to play a wonderful song from Willie Boo Walker. Haven't heard from him in a while. He's a Canadian blues guy, rhythm and blues, wonderful deep voice. He's got this great, almost burlesque band called the Willie Boo and the Rattle and Bone Theater Show, and this is Ain't Hungry No More.
I love Willie Boo Walker.
I know. On What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show on Para X Radio at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and found on all major podcast services.
Your source for everything paranormal, Para X.
An excerpt from In Stone by Crystal Smart, read by David Walton. I wake suddenly, disoriented. I can't remember where I am. It's pitch dark, which only adds to an odd sense of floating in space. Two things get my attention: a low growl coming from the corner of the room, and the incredible cold. I glance at the clock on my night table. It's 2:06. Great. What woke me? Then I remember. I'm at the new house and I'm in my own bed. It should be a comforting thought, but it isn't. Why is it so cold? The growl from the corner gets more intense and takes on a hysterical edge. Is that Garth? I don't want to turn on the light. I don't want to know. Surviving in this house means not seeing, not knowing. I say, Garth, shush, go to bed. And the growling stops. I can hear Garth moving across the room to his bed. I pull the covers over my head and try to just go back to sleep. The quiet doesn't last long. I hear a whispered sigh coming from the back corner, then Garth up like a shot and growling deeply again. This time I hear the hysteria in that growl. Garth is a greyhound, not a guard dog, so I know this sudden aggressive display is all fear, not bravado. What could possibly scare him so badly, in this room? I bolt up. The fear is contagious. I don't want to turn on the light, but I have to. It takes everything I have to turn the switch. I put on my glasses. I see Garth staring hard into the corner. I can't see what he's staring at. The corner is dark with shadow. Garth is completely rigid with all the hair along his back standing straight up. His lips are curled back in a sneer, and I can count every gleaming tooth in his mouth. I've never seen that expression on a dog's face. The most disconcerting part, though, is his obvious terror. He is shaking visibly, and I can see a small puddle of urine on the carpet beneath him. Holy... I try to call him over to me, to comfort him. He doesn't move, frozen in fear. Then I notice movement in the corner. It's the shadow itself. It's so dark, a deep void of black, that even the bright bedroom lamp can't dispel it. It just hangs there, moving in undulating waves. I have this stark realization that it knows I can see it, and it knows I'm scared. I sense its awareness of me. As a general rule, I don't fear ghosts, but this is no ghost. Such malevolence. It just emanates in waves. I feel helpless and barely manage a choked, half-whispered, "Oh." Then my voice stops. Tears slowly make their way down my face. My whole body is numb. Suddenly, it dissipates like smoke. It's gone. I sit frozen, unable to move a muscle. Garth races towards me and uncharacteristically leaps onto the bed without waiting for an invitation. I see my terror mirrored in his dark, fear-glassed eyes. I don't know how long we sat there, just breathing, just trying to process what had happened. For the first time since living in the house, I felt more than fear. We're in physical danger. The room warmed considerably, though I still felt the deep chill of fear. Garth and I fall asleep curled up together. We sleep with the light on. Hi, I'm David Walton, and I drop whatever I'm doing to read whatever Fox and Phil demand of me. My digital, as opposed to ectoplasmic alter ego, is called Brendan Shawland, who regularly plays guitar and sings in a virtual world. Brendan has a website, David doesn't. Bandcamp sales figures would suggest that Brendan's music is decidedly niche. If you want to be in the vanguard of support as Brendan heads towards global domination, just put Brendan Shawland in your favourite search engine, and you'll find his website very close to the top. You'll see what the human looks like, and you can check out the Listen to a Song page to access Brendan's unwillingly private world of creative output.
Mercy, a new horror medical thriller from author T. Fox Dunham, published by Bloodbound Books. Based on the author's horrific battle with a rare form of lymphoma that involved intense chemotherapy and radiation, Fox turns the horror of his experience into terror on the page.
William Saint is dying of cancer. On most days, death seems like a humane alternative to the treatment. Stricken with fever, William is rushed to Mercy, notorious as a place to send the sickest of the poor and uninsured to be forgotten, and finds the hospital in even worse condition than his previous visit.
Willie's memories faded. He grabbed his sack head, the sack head of the scarecrow, picking at the exposed chicken wire to hold them in. However, the memories fell out of the holes in his face. They wormed and crawled from the leather flesh and the old clothing of the scarecrow, then squirmed and wiggled down his body.
The grounds are unkempt, the foundation is cracking, and like the wild mushrooms sprouting from the fissures of decay around it, something is growing inside the hospital. Something dark.
Fangoria gives Mercy 3.5 out of 4 skulls. Dunham has channeled his many brushes with the other side into the exquisitely rendered, lyrical, supernatural hospital thriller Mercy.
It's feeding on the sickness and sustaining itself on the staff, changing them, and now it wants Willie.
Come now, Mr. Saint. Just a little more of that sweet milk. So salty and so good. You won't miss it. And we ever do so like our delicacies here at Mercy Hospital.
Part medical horror, part supernatural suspense, Mercy is a hard-hitting fever dream of a novel. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Tim Wagner, author of The Way of All Flesh and Eat the Night. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and bookstores everywhere in both print and digital versions.
Life is an addiction.
Let go. Let it all burn.
You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows, visit electronicmediacollective.com.
We were talking earlier about the different kinds of hauntings. And you were describing, and you said that primarily there are 2 kinds of spirits. And what were those 2 kinds?
There were those that had been alive at one time and those that hadn't, which we call inhumans.
And what are inhumans?
Inhumans are like demons, incubus, succubus, which are a form of demon, elementals. Some people classify poltergeists and shadow people in that category as well.
And in your time, would you consider yourself an investigator or a fighter? Have you fought them?
I'm a little bit of both.
Okay. Are there any cases that stick out in your mind?
There's one. It was in this old mansion. There's always an old mansion, isn't there? It was in this old mansion, and a friend of mine said, you have to go to this house. You have to see this house. There'd been a lot of paranormal activity there. So she took me over to this house. When I walked up to the front door, it was a big 6,000 square foot mansion. It was just gorgeous. It was built pre-Civil War. It'd fallen into disrepair. Everyone kept on trying to rehab it. Everyone failed. Everyone was chased out for some reason or another. And I walked to the front door, and when I put my hand on the door knob, something growled at me. And I said, they have a dog. And she said, no, they don't have a dog. I said, well, something growled at me. So we went around to the side of the house because you couldn't get in the front. And we went in through this apartment, which was part of the addition. And I walked through the threshold to the original part of the house. And I said, there's something really bad here. Really, really bad. There's a lot of spirits, but there's something bad. So we kind of roamed through the house. It was 3 floors. The spirit on the 3rd floor, which was the son of the owner, he always tried to push people down the stairs, so I was kind of ready for him. And James and I actually became very good friends over the years. I worked in that house for 5 years. I would go over there, no heat, no electricity, in the middle of winter with a blanket and a thermos of coffee, and sit up there and talk to James. And then I went in the basement, and there's this room in the basement. It was to the left of the stairs, and it was the only room that had a dirt floor. And I walked in that room, and there was a hole at the other end of the room in the wall that went underneath the front porch of the house. And I said, well, that's weird. And I walked toward that, and something came at me. I couldn't even see. That's how I felt it, but I couldn't see it. I couldn't get out of the way. Everything went bright red, then it went white. I stumbled out of the room, and my vision started to clear. And that's the first time I literally ran out of a house. And because I did not know what it was, but I knew it wasn't good. It was my first time I'd ever run into a demon. Then I had to figure out what it was, of course. So I kept going back and back, and I wouldn't say I was provoking it. I was trying to get it to react.
Right.
Because I wanted to learn about it. I wanted to know what it was. And it would react a little bit, and then one night, my friend and I, we were out. Actually, we were at the cemetery, which is just down the road. And on the way back, we stopped by this house. And on the road we were on, the side of the house faces that road. We got out of the car, and we started walking through the yard. On the 2nd floor, there were 2 windows, really widely spaced apart. And something came out of the wall between those windows. And I can only describe it as like half wolf, half creature.
Jeez.
Scared the crap out of me.
I don't blame you.
It's scaring the crap out of me now.
And I remember telling my friend Linda, I said, run. And she went, what? I said, just run. Because I could feel all this energy coming at us. So I dropped her off. I ran home. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I poured a glass of wine. Went online, found my friend online who's a demonologist. And I said, what is this? And I told him what I saw. And he said, hang on. And he came back and he said, it was a Mon who is a lower prince of demons. He commands 30 legions. There's 10,000 demons per legion. Do the math.
Whoa.
I have heard of this demon before in other books.
Yes, and he said, leave it alone. Well, of course I couldn't leave it alone.
Right.
So I kept going back, and then it started to attack me at home.
Right. Yeah, right. Like Ron.
Yeah, it would attack.
Well, and what would it do?
I would hear it, like one of my dogs would start barking in the middle of the night, and I'd wake up, and I'd get out of bed, and I'd walk around the house, and I could feel it, but I couldn't see it. I could hear its footsteps.
Oh, God.
And I, go back to my bedroom, and I get back in bed, and I'm like, just ignore it, it'll go away. And then it would just grab me, and it would just hold me down, and you couldn't scream. And everyone's like, well, it's sleep paralysis. No, I was awake. I was up and walking. It was not sleep paralysis. So it attacked me 3 times. And I said, that's enough. That's it. So, I figured out a way that I hoped would get rid of it. And I went over to this house, and I said, you're going to be gone. starting this ritual, and I'm real confident in it. And then for some reason, I just stopped.
What?
This creature, Aman, he just kind of, in my head, I could hear him, and he's just going, "You stopped." I said, "Yes." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because if I got rid of you, that makes me no better than you, and I'm way better than you."
Did you write a book about this?
Under a pseudonym.
Yes. Oh my word. I read this last year, and you went down to the basement and confronted him.
Yes.
And said, "Aman, I'm letting you go now."
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's you.
Shh.
Okay, that was an amazing book, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, that was me. That's a story of Aman. So now, years later, twice a year he pops back in. I've moved. Doesn't matter. There's nowhere to go. He pops back in a couple times a year just to let me know he's here. He doesn't come at me. I'm not afraid of him. I just feel his energy, and I'm like, I know you're here.
What does he want? I mean, just...
Nothing.
I'm just curious.
Demons mark your soul.
Uh-huh.
In a way that is so profound. I was literally left so psychologically and spiritually and emotionally broken.
Mm-hmm.
After Aman, it took me, 10, 12 years to write that book.
Right.
Yeah.
And one thing I did learn, people say, in some religious circles, they say, a demon's purpose is to turn you away from God.
Right.
Or test your faith, right?
Yes. And I found, at least in my case, that I actually came out of it with stronger faith than I did before, than I had going in.
So he failed.
He failed.
He failed.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not say that too loudly.
Right. I think the funniest thing he did, I was at the grocery store one day and it was pouring rain. And I had to stop and get gas. And you know how they have those canopies over the gas stations?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I was underneath one of those, but the front end of my car was sticking out because I, was pumping gas. And I get back in my car, and written in the rainwater across my windshield was the word Aman.
Oh, wow.
That's cute. Cute. Funny. Real funny.
So you just stopped giving it power?
I stopped giving it power. Fear is the enemy. Because that's what they prey on. They instinctively know your deepest, darkest fear that you've never told anybody. And that's what they go for.
Because if my wife goes to the gas station tomorrow and finds Aman written on the windshield, she's not going to be upset it was a demon. She's going to be like, who's touching my car?
No, you have to... there's another line of thought that if you say their name, it draws them into you. I personally think that it makes you more powerful if you know your name, because during an exorcism, a demon's name is the last thing it will give up. Sorry, I didn't mean to get so dark there, but you asked.
No, please. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
I can't believe you read that book.
I did, and it was amazing. And it just compelled me all last Halloween, and here you are talking to us, and I didn't know it was you.
Yeah.
We might have to do another show now.
Right.
Not many people do know it's me.
Ghosts of Gettysburg Tour Headquarters from Ghosts of Gettysburg 7 by Mark Nesbitt of Gettysburg. Read by David Walton. From nearly the first day, the Ghosts of Gettysburg Tour Company bought the Civil War era house on the corner of Baltimore and Breckenridge Streets. Strange, unexplainable events have been occurring. Doors have been opened by some unseen helpful hand for workmen repairing the house. Some have speculated it is the ectoplasmic hand of Jacob Heck, who owned the carriage trimmer's shop in the oldest section of the building. One labourer helping out another across death's door. Children have been heard, seen and felt, rattling a restroom doorknob, appearing in the stairway or in a paranormal investigator's photo, pulling on an employee's sweater or pushing a customer out of a door. Communications have been established with a former owner as well as the soldiers from Georgia and Louisiana who once occupied this section of town. building a rubble barricade across Baltimore Street where it hits Breckenridge. They speak freely on digital recorders, resulting in electronic voice phenomena, EVP, the voices of the dead recorded. They utilize instrumental transcommunication, ITC, operating various electronic instruments such as phones or computers to reveal the secrets denied to us by their deaths. But one recent event piqued the curiosity of a veteran guide and frightened an entire tour and their leaders. On a weekend in late April 2010, Amy, our guide with the most years with the company, was leading a group of 8th graders and their chaperones on a tour. Towards the end of the tour, it began to thunderstorm. The group was close enough to the tour headquarters that, even though the building was closed, she could use the covered porch for her last few stories. Amy's stories were dramatically punctuated by flashes of lightning. The following series of emails from Amy will explain what happened best. Quote, "We made it through the thunder and lightning storm, just wondered who was that stomping through the ghost office when we were in the courtyard. Someone who wanted to go home? If it was a ghost, it was a loud, insistent ghost. Got the group going." End of quote. The email was referred to me by Katie, our manager, who assured me that when the storm hit and Amy and her group were on the porch, she had locked up the office and set the alarm. I wrote back to Amy telling her that no one had been inside the house when she had arrived and asked what it sounded like. In her return email, she admitted that she thought maybe it was an employee trying to scare them into leaving the porch. But whatever it was seemed to be able to appear, vanish and reappear in a different place virtually instantly, stomping its feet persistently. Quote, "At first it sounded like they were in the guide room, kitchen, behind the door, but then the insistent steps seemed to stomp back and forth across the length of the pre-1880 downstairs. As we were all reacting and I wondered what to do, stay or go, the sound changed as if whoever had very quickly gone upstairs and was now stomping rather insistently and very loudly overhead, back and forth on the balcony. I couldn't see anyone up there, and I didn't hear any doors open. The whole change of position happened so quickly. It sounded like somebody wanted us out of there, that they had had enough. We were annoying them and we had to go. I looked to a couple of chaperones and one said simply, 'Let's go.'" End of quote.
This is Katrina Weidman of Destination America's Paranormal Lockdown, and you're listening to What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show.
Ooh, tell us a story or two.
Yes, please.
I will tell you the story of the one that shook me the most. I actually wanted to cry. I have wanted to cry from emotional reasons on investigations, meaning like I said earlier, I feel a lot. Like I very easily pick up on maybe what someone else felt when they were in that room when they were alive, or just other things maybe other investigators have felt. I pick up on that stuff very easily. So I've wanted to cry from that kind of stuff, or a story that somebody has told me. Like, oh, these two people were murdered in this room. I always want to cry whenever I hear that. But this is the only investigation where I cried because of activity. And we were investigating in England. And in America, we know it as the Black Monk House. In England, they know it as 30 East Drive. And it's a haunting that started in 1966 to the Pritchard family. It started out kind of just, they had things materializing in the air and they would fall to the floor and we're like, oh, that's weird. And then and the activity just intensified for them so quickly that it became according to the daughter that was growing up there, she was dragged up the stairs by an unseen force.
Oh,
And
wow.
the mother actually lived there until the last few years. She had actually sold her house. They made a movie about their story, and she had sold her house with a lot of the contents in it to the man who made the movie. And he allows people to go there and investigate now, which is great because it's actually a lot of the family heirlooms are still there. So it's very much set up the way that it was when the Pritchards lived there. And we went to investigate it, and we were actually there longer. We were there for 100 hours. Very tiny house. It's in the middle of a neighborhood, and it's a nice neighborhood. Like when we were, and you could see the neighbors out in the day. There were kids riding bikes, and it just seemed like a nice little neighborhood. And you would never think anything like this would happen in a neighborhood like that. But we had a lot of experiences during our time there. But it climaxed to there's a closet in the house that they called the coal hole, where they used to store their coal. And back in the 60s, Joe, the father of the family, who was kind of more skeptical, even though they were having experiences, one night he got locked in the coal hole. I mean, for like hours. And he was terrified. And something happened to him in there, but he would never talk about it. But afterwards, everyone who knew him said he completely changed after that experience and changed for the worse. So I was in the coal hole. I had the door open. And I wasn't even really actively investigating yet. I was just sort of standing there, just getting a feel for things. I was alone. And my hands were down at my side. I was wearing 2 shirts. My nails were freshly filed. And I felt this intense burning on my stomach. Now, I've spoken to thousands of eyewitnesses to the paranormal at this point. And I know from their testimony that whenever someone is scratched, it starts out as this intense burn. And so my first thought when I was feeling it, I kind of stood there. I'm like, no way. Absolutely no way is this happening. And I lifted up my 2 shirts, and sure enough, there were 2 fresh scratch marks on my skin. And the one had started to break open the skin a little bit where there was, some blood coming.
They were bleeding. They broke the skin?
The one did. The other one was just a scratch mark that hadn't fully broken the skin. But I called for Nick and Rob because they were together at the time. And they came and got me. And the next 30 minutes, I just probably... Poor Nick. I think he was honestly scared for me because I just started rambling, and I just wanted to cry, and I wanted to leave. I just wanted to go home. But I know better. I've worked with a lot of investigators over the years, like Lorraine Warren, and a lot of priests, whatever you believe, whether you want to call it demonic or something else, whatever.
That's something.
These powerful forces, whatever they are. What I've been taught is that you don't feed into them. So even if you get scratched, don't give them the best of you. So that's, I was trying to remember that in my head at the time, but it was very hard. That experience completely shook me because, it's one thing to have a figure show up on your camera. It's another thing to see a figure with your own eyes, or to see an object move, or to hear a disembodied voice. But when it happens to your body, it is, I don't know how to explain it other than it just shatters everything you ever thought you knew about how our world works.
Your comfort zone's
completely.
Gone.
And the thing is, and I always say this, 100 years from now, we could all be laughing at it because maybe there is a scientific explanation other than what we call spirit. We don't have that now, so I don't know what that is. I don't know what can, I don't know what can do that to your body.
Caliburn Press, LLC is a Madison, Wisconsin-based publishing company owned and operated by Alan Ledden. Caliburn works with talented writers, artists, editors, and marketers throughout the United States, and you can find their books through their many imprints that include Damnation Books, Eternal Press, Malaferia Press, Ciento Sordida Publishing, and Spiro Publishing. Please visit their website at sites.google.com/site/Caliburn Press LLC/home, or Google Caliburn Press to check out their growing list of titles on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and any other place fine books are sold.
What happens to a ghost when their home is torn down. No one thinks of the disembodied when they rip down old buildings, dig up cemeteries, and build clean, unhauntable condos. Every year, hundreds of spirits are driven out of their own haunts by the careless living to exist alone with no one to scare. At Para X Radio, our hosts feel the plight of these evicted disembodied, and we're reaching out to you to please open your heart to one of these lost souls, such as the ghost soldier of the General Wayne Inn or the abandoned spirit cat of Benjamin Rush. So please, please, let a little spooky into your life. Won't you open your house to a ghost without a home?
Para X.
From the author of the Ghost of Hollywood series and Workplace Spells comes a book for all lovers of pets. Animal Spells and Magic by Marla Brooks. Learn how to choose your next pet according to their astrological sign. Explore animal superstitions. Learn 25 magic spells for your pets and get instructions on creating your own spells. Learn who to call upon and what to use to cast these spells. Includes special chapters by Reverend Tim Shaw, Psychic to the Stars Kenny Kingston, Psychic Medium Victoria Gross, Animal Communicator Dinah Roseberry, and Shaman Willie Windwalker Gibson. This is the perfect book for all animal lovers. Animal Spells and Magic by Marla Brooks. For details on how to get your copy of this amazing new book, go to www.schifferbooks.com or check out Marla Brooks online at www.marlabrooks.com. This would make the perfect gift for the animal lover in your life. Go to www.schifferbooks.com or ask about it at your local bookstore.
What are you afraid of? Love it. Fantoxic, please. A long time ago in the Roosevelt Hotel, which is supposed to be haunted, and I stayed there years ago because it was $69 a day. Right now it's like $400, but but it was rumored to be haunted. And one of the ghosts was supposedly Montgomery Clift. Now, I grew up next door to Montgomery Clift. His house abutted my parents' house. And once when I was at Yale, I was there for the weekend in New York. And Montgomery Clift rang the front door and came in. He had seen me from his place. And I was a young, beautiful young boy. And he was an older boy, homosexual. So he got very interested in my belt, and I interviewed him. Since he was there, I pulled out my reel-to-reel tape recorder, and I interviewed him for the Yale radio station. And he was very, very nice, but he was fascinated with my belt, which was just a normal belt. And but nothing happened, unfortunately, for me. So we kind of knew him. So one night in the Roosevelt Hotel, years later, after Monty died, and again, I didn't know him well. We only knew him because we were neighbors. And I'm laying in bed around 4 a.m. I was wasted, very wasted, no question about it. But something appeared, and it was in suite 1130, which was supposedly the one that Monty would populate. And I saw something smoky, weird outline, and my hair stood on the back of my neck. I had all that feelings, but I was also extremely wasted. But I think he might have been still interested in my belt buckle. I'm not sure, but I believe I did see something. I don't know if you use the word paranormal, but something that was not, something from another dimension. Yeah.
Are you haunted by shadow people in the middle of the night?
Do you secretly love all things creepy and spooky, enjoying ghost stories and horror fiction from the best storytellers?
Do you have a true ghost experience you want to share, but no one will believe you?
If yes, listen to the professionals on What Are You Afraid Of? Horror Paranormal Show Friday nights at 9 p.m. on Para X Radio and at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com.
What are you afraid of on Para X?
Our creepy and demented hosts are on call to provide you with all your spooky needs with true ghost stories, interviews, indie music, and new horror fiction. We are ready to scare you.
Para X.
We are at What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show. We are at Pennhurst Asylum, and the place is going crazy.
Yeah, it is. A lot of people here.
It is just insane, and we've got to evacuate soon. But before we left, we wanted to meet the famed paranormal hunters of Pennhurst.
Right here with us.
And we are with
Vicky. I'm with Ghost Hunts USA. We travel across the United States to all different haunted locations
and we investigate some of the best places. We have some of the best coworkers, and we just love people and love hunting ghosts.
So, when was your first paranormal experience, Vicky?
The first time I was ever here with Ryan, who's my fiance.
Yeah.
He brought me into the basement, and he said, okay, go walk around. And knowing me, I'm looking all over. I'm a photographer, so I'm looking at all this awesome abandoned building. And he wanted to see if I would experience anything by myself. So he walked away from me, went to another room, and all of a sudden, I felt this rush of air in my face, like someone had just walked up and stood in my face. And I put my hands in the air, was like, whoa, what is going on? And I felt uncomfortable. Right. And I went, okay, I'm leaving. And I went up to him and I'm like, I don't feel good in this room. I'm like, I feel like I was blocked, couldn't walk. And he goes, oh, okay, well then he found you. I go, oh, great, thanks. Because he set me up to see if, you know, I was used as bait. And it worked.
Who was he?
He is a lovely gentleman that's in the basement.
Not Dr. Fear.
No, I don't think so. We think his name is David. They've caught that in the past of EVPs. We've caught it here recently, asking what their name is. But we've also heard he likes to be referred to as the King. But I won't call him the King.
Thank you very much. King of the Mayflower.
Oh my goodness. He's very rude. We'll get sarcastic response. No, you'll know it's him when you talk to him, because we've had guests, say, okay, well, if no one's going to talk to us down here, we're going to go upstairs. And we've caught an EVP after that said, go for it. So pretty much, that's his sarcastic attitude. I've gotten an EVP in the basement with a group of people where I heard a man whisper. And no one in that group whispered. And I asked out loud, did anyone say anything? And they said, no, we didn't whisper anything. What did you hear? I'm like, I don't know, I couldn't make it out. They played that back, and over my voice asking that said, shut up, bitch.
Ooh.
Clear as day. So he doesn't like me.
Oh, man, he doesn't like you. Oh. Is he going to remember you when you go back?
Oh, absolutely. Every time I'm down there, I get cussed at.
You've had some nasty encounters here. Has
Yes.
any spirit ever gotten violent with you? Like, have you ever felt pushed or thrown or attacked?
Yes, actually.
Can you tell us about that?
11 o'clock in the morning,
Okay.
we were doing a photography tour in the past, and I was in the basement of the Devon building, and in the basement there are classrooms, and I was standing in the doorway with my tripod, and I was setting up a shot. Again, Ryan walked away from me, went down the hallway, and I was left alone. Me not thinking of anything, my leg gives out.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And I felt a pinch, and I took my pant leg off to make sure I wasn't bit by anything.
Oh, my word,
Nothing
yeah.
was in my pants.
Okay, that's good.
And I looked at the back of my leg, and there was a red pinhole mark.
Oh, really?
And it hurt. It hurt really bad.
Really?
And for about a week, I had a black and blue on my leg that it almost looked like I had blood work done.
Really?
Oh, my word.
So that hurt. That scared the shit out of me. Pardon my French.
That's fine. Your French is pardoned. I would swear too if that had happened to me.
Deadlands, submitted by Bill Goff, Stetson University, DeLand, Florida, and read by David Walton. This ghost story happened to me during my college years at Stetson University in DeLand, Florida. It was during the summer months, and on this particular afternoon, I was helping a friend move to a rental house on one of the side streets in the small town of DeLand. Not surprisingly, we often refer to this town as Deadland, since there was little to do in this small, sleepy college town. The streets here are thickly lined with huge live oak trees on both sides, casting a deep shade onto both houses and the street as well. Spanish moss hangs ominously from the branches of these trees, creating an eerie effect even during the day. Our car was filled to the brim with items to be moved, so we pulled up to the front of the house as close as we could get. My friend grabbed some bags of clothes and went in ahead of me. I was a few minutes behind her, with my arms filled with kitchen items to take into the house. I opened the door myself, as best as one can with both hands full of items, when, quite unexpectedly, I spied something. A figure, actually, seated in a chair located in a long hallway. It slowly stood up and walked down the rest of the way and turned into the dining room. It didn't move fast or slowly, just as if one was moving casually from one room to another. It was a see-through figure, looking quite like a black and white photographic negative. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, but it did have human form and was definitely adult-sized. I stood there for a minute or so trying to make sense of what I had seen. Still stunned, I walked through the dining room, not seeing anything there. I told my friend, who was now back in the kitchen, what I had seen. To my surprise, she didn't seem upset or frightened, but she mentioned that she thought there was a ghost in the house, since she had been in the home earlier that day, and her dog would mysteriously go into chilly corners of the house and bark at apparently nothing. Later that day, when the moving was all finished, she told me she was going to the Episcopal church at the end of the street and have the priest come and bless the house. She did so, and did not see any sign of a ghost after that.
The boogeyman is real.
T. Fox Dunham lives in Philadelphia with his wife Allison. He's a lymphoma survivor, cancer patient, modern bard and historian. His first book, The Street Martyr, was published by Gutter Books. A major motion picture based on the book is being produced by Throughline Films. Destroying the Tangible Illusion of Reality or Searching for Andy Kaufman, a book about what it's like to be dying of cancer, was recently released from Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing, and Fox has a story in the Stargate anthology, Points of Origin, from MGM and Fandemonium Books. Mercy was recently released by Bloodbound Books. Fox is an active member of the Harvard Association. He's been published in hundreds of short stories and articles, and his motto is Wrecking Civilization one story at a time.
Phil Thomas resides in the suburbs of Philadelphia and is an author and filmmaker. His screenplays have been produced into feature films such as False Face and Always from Darkness that are available in major retailers such as Best Buy and Target, as well as availability on Netflix and Amazon On Demand.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.